Welcome, everybody, to SportsLine. I'm John Burton with you for the next hour. We got a great show for you tonight. A lot going on. In just a couple of minutes, we're going to hear from our man, Jonathan Hutton, frequent contributor here to News Channel 5 Sports, of course, from 104.5 The Zone and Titans Radio. We're going to talk a little Preds, a little Titans as well. We've got Titans OTAs, the media invited to today's practice. We've got some sound from head coach Mike Vrabel and several players. We'll get that on for you as well. And coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to preview the NBA Finals between the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Fourth straight time these two teams are meeting in the NBA Finals. That is a record for major North American sports teams, for the same two teams meeting for a championship 4 years in a row. And, folks, I'm going to just warn you right now, it's not going to be a very objective preview. We're going to get the Cleveland side of things, as I am rooting for Cleveland and LeBron James to somehow pull the huge upset over Golden State. Emmett Golden from ESPN Radio 850 in Cleveland. He hosts an afternoon show there, and he also covers the Cavaliers. He's going to join us live from Oakland as we get set from Game 1 tomorrow, as the Warriors will host the Cleveland Cavaliers. And, of course, your phone call is always ready, welcome at 737-7767. But for now, we start the show with a bang. Our buddy Jonathan Hutton from Titans Radio and 104.5 The Zone. He joins us. Jay Hutt, how are you tonight, man?
Listen to you, JB. You hate the Warriors all of a sudden. What?
I've always hated them, yeah. Can't stand Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. I really can't stand Draymond Green. Hutton, you know me. I am a huge LeBron fan, and I want him to win, so I don't care about the Warriors. So I'm just laying it out there. It's not going to be an objective preview. It's going to be a very pro Cleveland Cavaliers LeBron James preview. But, hey, it's my show. It's the Wednesday extravaganza. That's how we're doing things. With that, I'd like to welcome you to the show. How are you, man?
I am great. Great to be back on with you, and great to be back on SportsLine. I always enjoy this.
Yeah, it's been a while, and you've always been a great contributor to News Channel 5 Sports. And, you know, Hutton, it's funny because I think a lot of us thought, and I'm sure you did too, that we'd be right in the middle of the Stanley Cup final with the Nashville Predators playing. Of course, that didn't happen, with the Preds losing in the second round in Game 7. Just give us your overall thoughts on what this season was for the Nashville Predators from your perspective. Do you still consider it a success, given how far they went last year and them coming up a little bit short this year?
Well, yeah, I mean, is it a success based on raising banners and 100 consecutive sellouts was passed by the team, which is a remarkable stat, living here in Middle Tennessee and knowing where they were? And you've certainly seen all that, John. I mean, it means something, yes. Success, though, I can't help but think the players would tell you no, and the coaching staff would say no. David Poyle would say no.
Sure.
And that's simply because all season long they did not shy away from the fact that they wanted to get back to the Stanley Cup final. They wanted to be playing in June, and they wanted to hoist the cup, and that didn't happen. They went all in with the trades. Certainly, some of those trades paid off towards the end of the regular season, and we didn't see those guys play very well in the postseason. Pekka Rinne, great regular season, very average in the postseason, which you guys have documented well on Sunday Sports Central. So, no, I can't sit here and say, yeah, that season was a success, because at the end of the day, that team was poised to make a deep playoff run and to win the Stanley Cup, and they didn't do that, and they fell short. I'm stunned, I'll be honest with you, that out of the West, it wasn't Nashville or Winnipeg.
Right.
And the fact that Vegas is playing so well, I am very surprised with that. But that's just kind of how the NHL goes, man. It's never as it seems as you enter the postseason, unlike the NBA, where we knew what we were getting in June. You can never say that about the National Hockey League. Some people like that, some people don't. But the Preds were the best team in the regular season, and they didn't get it done. And I think most objective fans will look at it and think the same thing.
Well, as you mentioned, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final going on right now as we speak. At last count, Vegas was up on Washington 1-0 on a James Neal goal, ironically enough. And Hut, Steve and I have been pretty vocal about our feelings about what Vegas is doing. An expansion team playing in the Cup final, winning the Western Conference in their first year of existence. I thought they took advantage of a really good expansion draft system that netted them some really good players right away. It doesn't sit well with me, Jonathan. I don't think it's good for the league, especially a league like the NHL, where the Stanley Cup is supposed to be the most earned trophy in all of sports, save for maybe the World Cup or some other tournaments, other sporting events out there. But here in North America, the Stanley Cup, to me, is the most earned trophy in all of sports. And to see a first-year team come in and maybe after tonight only be 2 wins away from winning it in year one doesn't sit well with me. I don't think it's a good reflection on the National Hockey League. Steve Lehman has voiced as much, as have I, the last couple of weeks. I'm curious to know where you stand on it.
Well, I mean, I agree with you first and foremost that the league set up certain rules that other expansion teams have not had the opportunity to build through. I mean, Washington's expansion year, their first year in the league, they won 8 games. And Vegas won 12 games on their path to the Stanley Cup final in the postseason. I mean, that's what it was like for Vegas compared to other teams. We know how long it took Nashville to get into the postseason and how they had to work their way up. But on the flip side of things, Vegas paid $500 million to enter the league. Had to promise certain things with ticket sales and other things just to be considered. And that seems to be the going rate now, where you're going to pay this amount. Seattle, it seems, whenever they want to vote on this, they're going to have the same expansion rules. But here's the big beef I have. It's not necessarily with Vegas getting the rules set or the league. There were general managers throughout this entire process that, had they done their job properly, Vegas would not be where they are right now. They could have protected certain players and instead chose to dump salary. We saw that in Florida, for instance. With their top line right now in Vegas is made up of 2 gifts from the Florida Panthers because ownership wanted to cut salary.
Sure.
That's where I have the biggest beef. One of the toughest decisions across the league was from David Poile and whether or not he wanted to protect James Neal. I mean, there were more cases of GMs making the wrong decision than it was other GMs making the tough decision. And so I think a lot of the GMs and owners across the league are just as much to blame as the rules itself, because certain players were available that really should not have been for Las Vegas. That being said, John, no one picked Vegas to do this. I mean, they were consistent for 7 months. They were the storyline at the beginning of the year, and everyone said, oh, wait till the new year. They'll slow down. January rolled around. Okay, wait until March. They'll slow down. And instead, they've just been steamrolling all the way through the postseason, and now they're the favorite to win the Cup based on what we've seen so far against Washington.
Interesting. Wow. Jonathan Hutton is our guest from 104.5 The Zone and, of course, Titans Radio. Jonathan, I just feel bad for a team like the Cleveland Browns. Remember when they came back into the league in 1999, they had, basically the bottom of the barrel for players to pick that were left unprotected by the established NFL teams. And that was a result of Carolina and Jacksonville coming in a few years prior, getting the benefit of a really good expansion draft. And both teams, if you remember, were in their respective conferences championship games in year 2. The NFL owners didn't want that. The poor Cleveland Browns got screwed, and they've had 1 playoff appearance since they've been back in 1999. That's where I feel bad, seeing what Vegas has done to what maybe the Cleveland Browns could have been had they benefited from a really good expansion draft.
And as a fan, I mean, as a true fan of sports, can you appreciate what Vegas is doing if you're a Vegas fan in year 1 and you're playing for the Stanley Cup?
Sets a high standard for the future, no?
Right. Imagine when they lose, what that building will be like.
Yeah.
Vitriol for the coaching staff and the players when they actually don't have this type of success in Sin City. There's a certain pride factor that fan bases like the Browns and others have, like the Cubs had, Cubs fans, of working ultimately to either break a curse or earn a goal that you have never seen in your lifetime. in many cases. And Vegas fans, in year number one, no matter the age of the fan, they have a very great chance of hoisting the ultimate goal in year one. To me, I don't know. I just don't think they can appreciate it as much. Maybe they can. They're going to party like they can appreciate it just as much, and I don't blame them.
Right.
But there's something weird and wrong about it, and I just don't think that it will go down as a great thing for the league long term, the fact that Las Vegas won the Stanley Cup in year one.
Let's move on, Jay Hutt, talk a little Titans. One of the big stories coming out of OTAs this afternoon, new defensive coordinator Dean Pease with some high praise for our guy Kevin Byard. I know he's your guy, you being a Murfreesboro boy and a proud MT alum, but basically saying this guy has stepped up to be one of the leaders, not only of the defense, but the entire team, entering only his third year in the NFL. Of course, he was first-team All-Pro last year, and you kind of felt that coming from Kevin Byard, didn't you? I mean, just the way he presented himself when he was at Middle Tennessee, his attitude coming into the NFL, the way he carries himself. It's no surprise that this guy's getting singled out as one of the young leaders of the Tennessee Titans, is it?
It's no surprise, and it's not by luck.
Yeah.
You know, some of these interceptions can be a tip pass, and players can be right place, right time. And some of the 8 picks he had last year were certainly that case. But he puts himself in position based on his offseason and his work ethic. I spoke with Logan Ryan today. He's been around some veterans throughout his career. He's one of the vets in that locker room. And he said Kevin Byard's offseason last year caught his attention and his work ethic last season. That was coming off a year where he had no interceptions, and he didn't start a regular season game until midway through the regular season of his rookie year. And he said he's amped it up. He's pushed it up a notch since last season's performance. But there's no resting on what he did last year. I think that's a positive sign, not just for him, but for that defense, because they've added some nice pieces to that secondary over the last 2.5 years that I think they have a really good chance to be a solid group this year for Dean Pease and for Mike Vrabel. And it's going to be led by Kevin Byard. He's ultimately going to be the leader. And I like the fact that even though there's really no reason for him to have a chip on his shoulder, he looks for those mental edges.
You know what? It's funny. I was just going to ask you, Jay Hutt, how much do you think this whole Deion Sanders beef, Twitter beef over the offseason maybe motivates this guy to work that much harder and to play that much better this year?
It grinds at him. It chips away at him because I think not getting the acknowledgement from someone, it's not like it's just an all-time great. Deion is a great player, but it's someone that played in the secondary, you know, that Byard can certainly relate to and that Deion should be able to relate to, and being called a fan and not being acknowledged by someone who has been there and done that and played at the highest level, which is a level that Byard wants to be at. I think that got to him a little bit. That got in his crawl a little bit. And, you know, he has the T-shirts now that says "Just a Fan." He's buying into it. And it's more than just a marketing gimmick for him. I do think that it's been a motivating factor for him to receive acknowledgement. Ultimately, he's not trying to compare himself to Deion Sanders.
Sure.
But he wants the Deion Sanders of the world to recognize him as someone who plays the game at a very high level, and that wasn't a third or fourth alternate in a Pro Bowl. He was an All-Pro. So to me, that's what is really getting at for Byard. He wants the acknowledgement that he's not just some splash in the pan when it comes to a one-year, one-hit wonder. He wants to be one of the consistent names that you think of when you think of great players in the secondary for the National Football League.
Spending a couple more minutes with our good buddy Jonathan Hutton from Titans Radio and 104.5 The Zone. You can follow him on Twitter at Hutton1045. Jonathan, obviously the Titans as a whole, it's a brand new coaching staff, new head coach, completely new coaching staff. The returning players and the rookies, for that matter, have to learn a new offense and a new defense, and they're saying all the right things. You know, hey, it's coming along pretty well. You've got your ear to the ground pretty well when it comes to the Tennessee Titans. What are you hearing in terms of Mike Vrabel's system, in terms of Dean Pease's system, Matt LaFleur's system, really being absorbed by the players and how they're responding to it?
I think they're responding well. I think they're energized.
Yeah.
But not just by the offense, but also the defense, but pieces that have been added, and as a group feeling like they're very close to being a solid unit top to bottom, front to back. Offensively, I think they're energized because the pieces to the puzzle feel like the offensive coordinator will create a system that allows them to fit in to what they're doing. And what I mean by that is I think Matt LaFleur will take a system that he has in mind and twist it and manipulate it to the point where everybody that he wants to be involved will be able to play a significant role. Instead of being, okay, we're a run-first team, regardless of whether or not you fit a run-based offense, he will make sure that you fit within the offense that he comes up with on this particular year. As far as the playbook is concerned, John, I've heard it's very, very thick. It's a long playbook. Dean Pease said today that he's installed about a third of his system so far, so there's still a ways to go. One thing I do find interesting, though, is Vrabel has already gone to the unscripted portions of practices. I assumed when I heard that earlier, whenever he was hired and LaFleur was hired, that they would wait until some things got installed more long-term and practiced a little bit before they went off script with LaFleur and Pease. I think it's just as significant for the coaches as it is for the players. And Vrabel went off script today at the organized team activity on third downs. He would yell out a 3rd and 6 or a 3rd and 2 situational plays, and the coordinators would put the play call in based on what had already been installed. Players would have to recognize that and actually go with it. They're not holding back, but I think that's a good thing. I think that shows confidence in what they're running, and it shows confidence that the players are putting in effort to actually get it done. And one side note, the players who are not there, they will be behind more so than in years past, because I don't get the sense, and I'm sure you don't either, there's not going to be much hand-holding this coaching staff and what's expected of you, nor should there be.
Right.
This is a locker room that will police that. And if you're not there right now, I know it's voluntary, and look, you can take whatever you want on the voluntary practices. Ben Roethlisberger isn't there. Tom Brady's not there right now for their teams. But as a Titans fan, if you're looking at it wondering, okay, should this guy be here or not, just keep in mind that they're going to be behind regardless of what reason is keeping them out of Nashville currently. That to me will play a big factor for the Kevin Dodds of the world when they actually do arrive to Nashville.
Yeah, and Kevin Dodd strikes me as a guy that really needs to get in there and learn that defense and try to establish a role on this football team. All right, Jonathan, final question. NBA Finals, I know what you're going to say. I don't necessarily need a prediction from you. I think we're on the same page as to who's probably going to win this series. But appease me and please humor me and satisfy this for me, if you will. The performance by LeBron James in Game 7 the other night. And, there's so much talk going back and forth. Is he the greatest of all time? How does he compare to Michael Jordan, this guy or that guy? He took a big step forward in that Game 7 performance in Boston on Sunday night, no?
No, he did. And he continues to do it, man. I mean, when you think of minutes played, take away his age at 33, because it's remarkable that he's 33 and playing this well, but honestly, the guy's taking complete care of himself, doesn't smoke, to my knowledge, doesn't drink. If he does, he doesn't drink very much. I think he's become kind of a wine connoisseur, but that's about it when it comes to alcohol. Well, I mean, he does everything the right way, always in great condition. I mean, it's really no surprise to me that he's playing well at 33. Never gets hurt. The minutes played, JB, for LeBron James, this is what goes unnoticed with him that he deserves more credit for. Total minutes played this season for the 5 All-Stars playing in the finals starting tomorrow night. Steph Curry, a little over 2,000 minutes. Draymond Green, 2,900 minutes. Kevin Durant, almost 3,000 minutes. Klay Thompson, 3,100 minutes. And then there's LeBron James at 3,769 minutes. Wow. He's played between 600 and 1,700 more minutes than all 4 Warriors big-time players, All-Stars. That tells me that he brings it every night at such a high level, and he's so consistent. That's where the bar is set, and that's why he's in the discussion as either the greatest or right behind Jordan as the greatest of all time, because it doesn't really matter if Iguodala plays, if they're going to defend him with Klay Thompson, if they defend him with Kevin Durant. LeBron James is going to get his.
Right.
The problem is it's the pieces around him as to why this should not be a very long series. This is no 7-game series. I'm sorry, but it has nothing to do with LeBron James.
No, I understand. One word answer. Can the Cavs win a game in this series?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good.
I think LeBron could win 2 games. That's how good he is.
I like that. You will be further invited to come on the Wednesday extravaganza. That was hanging on the line based on your answer. Hutton, we just did 20 minutes and it flew by. You are the best in the world at what you do. Thanks so much for coming on, brother.
Always love joining you anytime, and hopefully we'll get you on Midday 180 soon.
I look forward to that. Tell the forces, the powers that be that I am available.
I will, and I will let the Kohai know. I'll Hefe know that you're willing to come on whenever he's not there.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much, man. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too, John.
All right. The great Jonathan Hutton joining us here for a very fast 20 minutes of sports talk. How was that, folks? One of the best in the business. Truly. Good friend and a good guy, Jonathan Hutton. All right. We'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more Titans. Don't forget, bottom of the hour, Emmett Golden from ESPN Radio 850 in Cleveland will join us live from Oakland as we preview the NBA Finals. Stay with us.